broadcasting around the world.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension.
Bob Charles.
Oh, yeah, you got the Bob Charles Show right here at www.kinetichifi.com.
In over 100 countries.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into...
Bob Charles.
The secret of the technology used in the crystal skulls has still not been unraveled.
Bob Charles.
Don't forget, it's our world. Start taking care of it. It's time to think for yourself.
Bob Charles.
Open your heart to reality and to all the misinformation you hear. Just say no.
Get your dose of the Bob Charles Show 7 times a week.
Oh, yeah, it's the Bob Charles Show. It's Friday night. Come on, let's dance. Pyramid One Network. Oh, yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the guest that's coming up now. Her name is Deborah Koff-Chapin. She's an artist, a vocalist, an author, and a teacher. In 1974, Deborah discovered touch drawing in a moment of creative exploration. When touching a paper towel that had been placed on an inked printing plate, the pressure formed marks on the underside. Lines were coming directly from her fingertips, and primal images poured through her hands. It felt as if she was receiving a gift from outside the time, a technique of creative expression aligned with evolution of human consciousness. She created images in SoulCards used by therapists, workshop leaders, creative writers, and a broad range of individuals. Deborah developed a person's imagery in private sessions. These inner portraits bring into form many dimensions of the soul. She has an archive of drawings inspired by different authors and wisdom keepers of our time. She keeps workshops at conferences and educational institutions. She involves sacred ceremonial arts with music, using her voice, drum, chimes, and singing bowls to generate a sacred sound field. Deborah is the founder of the Center for Touch Drawing and is also the author of the book, Drawing Out Your Soul, the Touch Drawing Handbook, and a DVD, Through the Veil, the story of touch drawing. Let me introduce, locally, nationally, globally, Deborah Koff-Chapin.
Hi, Bob.
Deborah.
And hi, everybody who's listening. It's great to be talking with you today.
Yeah, I tell you, I've been through your stuff and your site and the whole thing, and you got to give me more of these pictures. I mean, these pictures are great. I mean, if everybody that's listening right now, go to the chat box. Her link is right now in the chat box. So you can click on that link while you're talking, while you're listening.
Yes, it's so interesting to have a primarily visual form of communication and then do radio interviews. But
I mean, we do it.
I have learned to try and communicate even through through description something, but there's nothing like seeing the process or the artwork.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the things that I saw, some of the pictures, in fact, the one that's going on Facebook right now, everybody is writing me about. it's got a face in the middle of this abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so cool. Everybody's writing me, where'd you get the picture from? So I have the link on there. So.
Oh, cool. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, well, there's hundreds. If you explore my website, there are hundreds of images you can find. So it's an interesting place to explore. I don't think anyone ever finds their way through the whole site.
I'm not going to say anything.
But,
I wouldn't say anything's too crazy, but boy, that would make one heck of a T-shirt.
Well, I have such an archive of images that I do need to explore all kinds of ways to use my images. It's just a lot to juggle, in one life, one little person, taking care of my artwork, because I also teach the process. So I'm sort of holding the two poles of this as my own artwork, which tends to get a little more of the back burner in terms of my promotional energy and all of that, because I'm so dedicated to also teaching the process and communicating about the process and encouraging people to use this, because it's a very transformative and healing art form, and it's really accessible truly to anybody. It's, again, hard to describe in words the simplicity and yet the direct power of expression that happens in this very, very simple process.
Actually, right now on the chat box net, they're calling it spirit painting.
Well, that's definitely a dimension of it. So, I call it touch drawing because that's literally the images, the drawings are created through touch. But what you're touching are deeper and deeper levels of the soul. And so, depending on the level that you're attuned to at the moment, and I think they're all valid, I try not to be hierarchical, there are times where, you focus on your body and you just transmit the sensations right now, physical feelings in your body. And I think when you free yourself up to be that primal and direct in your expression, you're actually opening the channel of expression to those more subtle levels. So I wouldn't necessarily say one is material and one is spirit, but I would say that you can attune to and express more and more subtle dimensions of your soul and of life as you deepen into the process.
Okay, and you teach this, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
definitely.
so if you teach this, all right, give us a quick lesson.
Okay, the greatest way that I have found to describe it to someone who's not seeing it done is to have you imagine doing it. So I'm going to, you may want to close your eyes and just imagine that you have in front of you just a nice smooth piece of plastic, just a smooth little board. And then you also have a tube of oil paint and a roller and a nice pile of lightweight paper. So those are the four materials you need: a board, a roller, paint, and paper. Pretty simple. And you pick up that tube of paint. It's like oil paint, a nice thick
like
paint, and you
yeah.
put some dabs. You pick it up in your hand. Imagine do it, or even physically, pretend you're doing it, and squeeze that tube with some dabs onto that smooth board. Not too much paint, though. That's the big thing I caution people about. Less paint actually works better. And then you pick up that roller. It's a printmaking roller. And
is this
it's
like
kind of like a
something,
rolling pin, but it's got a handle.
Is this like...
And you hold it by the handle, and you just roll that paint smooth. You're just making a nice, smooth surface. And actually, the rolling part of the paint, many people find very meditative and satisfying to do. You're smoothing the paint out and covering this board with a nice, smooth layer. And imagine you're just completing that, and then you put the roller down, and you've got a pile of paper next to you. I would say you want at least 25 sheets of paper. And pick up one sheet. I use tissue paper when I'm teaching workshops. It's a wonderful, sensitive to your touch and yet still strong. And lay that piece of paper down over the smooth ink. And then just sit in yourself for a moment and notice how you feel. This is where it really is a mindfulness process in a lot of ways. How do I feel right now? And I notice the sensations in my body, the emotions, the energies, and I allow my hands to touch the paper as if I'm dancing my feelings onto the page. My hands are dancing. I'm touching with maybe both hands, one hand. My fingernails are touching. Fingertips are moving. And everywhere you're touching, when you finish this gesture and feel complete with it, then you pick up the corner of the paper, you pull it off that inked board, and you lift it on the bottom of the paper. Everywhere you've touched, there's a record. Everywhere you've touched, it's like the imprint of your movement is on the paper. This is not high tech. This is the most low tech. You know, people talk about touch drawing now because they use these touch pads, but I've been doing touch drawing since '74, and it's the opposite. It's super low tech and yet high spirit kind of drawing. So you take a little look at this. You see the movement. Everything that it's like your gestures actually imprinted on the paper, but you don't stop there. You lay it aside, and you roll the board smooth again. You're erasing the marks that were left, the imprints, and you have a nice smooth surface again. You put another sheet down. Now, this time, I might bring a little more focus. This is how I bring people more gradually than we're doing here, but I bring people into really forming images. A lot of people, when they hear about the process, they think, oh, it's kind of like finger painting. And I would say that would be the maybe first impression of it. But as you've seen with my images on the website, you can really articulate form and imagery in this process. So I'm going to talk you into one more drawing, and this will be doing an image of how you feel your own face. So instead of just moving randomly, you know, with my feelings on the paper, let's bring our attention into our own faces right now. How do you feel your face? Now, usually we'll look in the mirror and see what our face looks like, but that inner sensation of the face is a different experience of yourself. It's more kinesthetic than visual, actually. Wherever you sense it, and I'm going to do one right now imaginally along with you. So right now I'm feeling, say, my forehead, so I'm letting my fingers, I have two hands down, and I'm touching on the paper, expressing the shapes and energies I feel in my forehead and my eyebrows, and I'm actually giving form. I'm not randomly moving. I'm drawing my eyes as I sense them, and I'm feeling my nose and drawing my nose, feeling my cheeks, and there may be energy moving out beyond my face that I can just sense. So I'm tracking physical and more subtle sensations in my face. And then I lift the paper, and there is this impression like my energy face has just gone right through the paper. Almost like, some people say it's sort of like the Shroud of Turin when they see a touch drawing face.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of stuff is coming through the chat box right now, as a matter of fact. It's even saying that it's like channeled drawing.
Yes.
Because your feelings,
yeah.
your impulses, your energy, and everything else is coming through. I mean, look, let's face it. I mean, the best place for it to go at is your tips of your fingers.
Absolutely. Our fingers are so sensitive. Anyone who knows, you know, say the energy systems of the acupuncture, the fingertips, and people who are healers, people who are body workers, the human hand is the most amazing, miraculous, biological, creation, really. So you're allowing the human hand to directly express the human soul. And I do feel as we go deeper, it's possible to attune to, depending on how you define reality, it could be spirit guides, subtle beings, allies, or archetypal levels. All those levels are available, but I always start people right at their own physical self, full presence of your own person, and how do you feel right now when you're drawing. And with that as your base and your center, you're grounded in yourself, and yet you're opening to these larger fields and letting them come through you. On the way to that, you sometimes scribble. You might have a physical pain you want to draw, or a sense of your stuckness. So what I say is say yes to everything you feel when there's a new piece of paper in front of you, and just move that feeling right out into the paper, and you are doing touch drawing correctly. No matter what you do, if you're just present to yourself, and the more you're present to yourself and you're honest and allow whatever is in the moment to come through, that's when you're opening the channels of expression to those more transpersonal levels. But you start with your very personal physical self, and I think that makes the contact.
In what I had read up front, you described it as primal images. What do you mean by primal?
Well, if you were to look at my first touch drawings, they don't look exactly like the current touch drawings, which are more refined in their structure and shaping, almost like I'm sculpting the images into form. My first ones were very raw. I used to refer to them as chicken scratch, It was like a raw, primal is a good word, like, this is how I feel right now, almost like an energy, just an energy with a little bit of form. And very childlike. I had various versions of it in the beginning of touch drawing. If you were to watch the DVD, that's where I share that in the most depth. I show what was behind touch drawing, how I arrived at that moment, and a lot of my early work, which was very raw. It wasn't highly formed, yet it was very direct and potent. And all I can do is, what I am right now, so I can't even draw that way anymore. I just keep, staying in the moment and doing what comes to me.
Have you ever, all right, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. Have you ever had the chance to actually use imagery in your mind, and that's what showed up on the picture?
Like a preconceived image and then a drawing?
And then it happened. Without you literally saying, this is what I'm going to paint.
I wouldn't say that precise way. I've definitely had, experiences of sort of precognitive touch drawings where I drew something that didn't make sense, and then later on it connected, and it made sense to me. I had an experience later that related to it. I don't have a fully formed image in my mind when I start any touch drawing. All I have is the impulse to start, and that might be just the curve of an arm or, some body. It always starts on some level with a body sensation. That's sort of my receiving station, and if I have the first impulse to begin, I trust it, I start, and I allow the image to take form. So it's not like a unconscious process. It's more like a fine listening process. And I get the first impulse, and I trust it, and then I keep going with the image. So it's never pre-planned, and it's never pre-formed in my mind. But so in that sense, it does feel a little bit like receiving, when I get to those more subtle levels of the process.
Wow, that's some way of drawing a picture. Let me tell you. I mean, it was so interesting. Yeah. It was so interesting to me because even in I started when I was a kid, but any musician, you're tied into the art part too at the same time for some reason. I mean, you make a rhythm out of a picture as you're painting it. So it's just a strange thing, and I'm sure you're there too. But yeah, I went through years, of like art school. I mean, it was part of my schooling. You had to take it. You had to take a lesser subject. So art was like it, or a language. I had Spanish and all that stuff. But when it came to the art, and that I used to paint. I'm telling you, my art teachers owned them. I don't. They stole them. I mean, I painted some really, really good paintings, and like when I was looking at yours, I'm saying to myself, now wait a minute, this is something I haven't tried.
Yes, well, you could give it a try.
Yeah.
That's my job, to encourage you to give it a try.
Oh, you don't
I even give the basic instructions are on the website. Anyone can just give it a try on their own, and that's why I've created all the media to help people. And so, I think it's a universal human emergent mode of expression. And in the first moments that I was doing it in 1974 in the print shop, in a sort of a playful moment, the pure playfulness of it exploded way beyond just, oh, let me just try this out. As soon as I did it, it's like I was... The fingertips were unplugged when I moved my fingertips directly on the paper. It's such a different physiological experience than holding a tool. Something really different happens. I experienced that, and when my fingertips opened up energetically, it's like the top of my head also opened up or something. Energetically, I was just filled, almost like a thunderous, crackling feeling of energy, and it came out in hysterical laughter, actually. Moving my fingertips, doing these little drawings, and laughing hysterically. But behind that was this sense that this is a human creative process. It's being given to you right now. You know, this is for human beings to do in the future. There's something happening with human consciousness, and this process is going to be something that can help in the expression of how we're evolving. I was 22 years old. I was on my last day in art school, and this just came. I wasn't thinking in this way at all in my life. In a sense, I felt like I was making contact with some intelligence or layer of consciousness that was outside of time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was sort of dropping this in as another human evolutionary process, and that's how these ways that we've evolved culturally and our consciousness over time, that it was coming from that same place where these things are dropped into us. And so I felt like I have to share this. I mean, that's why that was the message that came to me so I knew it wasn't just my little signature, process for me to do, but it was a very human, and that's why I think it's so easy to bring people into doing it, because I think they're ready.
Oh, yeah.
I create a safe space. There's a certain way that I hold space, but I create this vessel that's safe, and then people they take off. They get it. They know how to lead themselves on their own inner journey through touch drawing. So I don't have to do a lot of manipulation of the experience. People guide themselves.
It's funny, though. It's what you're talking about is actually opening the crown chakra and just allowing universal energy to go through you, through your fingers, onto the paper.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I didn't have the language for it at the time. I was in New York City in the art world, but
oh, yeah.
Yes, I've come to understand that it was something of that nature happening.
That's what we hear in this studio come from the New York area, so I know exactly what you're talking. I would know exactly what you're talking about. Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, I was at Cooper Union. I was right down on Bowery and 8th Street at Cooper Union in their print shop.
Oh wow.
That's where the process happened.
That's some neighborhood. That's some neighborhood.
Yeah, it's changed a lot since then. I think everything's been upgraded since those years. I mean, the Bowery at that point, when you thought of Bowery, that's where the homeless men lived and things like that. And now it's, I don't know, there's museums and restaurants and all kinds of things in that neighborhood.
They were strange, yeah. it was a little weird. I mean, I worked at the time for 20 years right off 5th and 14th. No, 4th,
oh, you were
5th
right
and
nearby.
15th. Right. Yeah, I was right down the block. Just about.
Right, Union Square.
Yep. Well, but the subway down there. You get on
I sure do.
Get on the subway. You want to go over to Brooklyn to get some pizza or something. You go over to Flatbush Avenue, and then you have that. You come back to Union Square, and then you can't get off the square, the train there, because you don't want to go in front of the people that are standing there trying to get on.
Oh, really?
They were so weird. Oh yeah. Oh, they were. Oh yeah. I'd go to the next stop and walk back.
Well, I just stayed downtown. I barely took the subway to any other area of the city when I was in school. So, I go up to the museums now and then. That's about it. But
it was a lot of fun.
New York's a great city.
Let's. We got a couple of minutes left before the break. So you were just telling me before we came on, and that off the record, that you are going right after this phone call. You're going somewhere to do a talk.
Actually, I'm going to do a interpretive drawing session.
Oh, wow.
I live on Whidbey Island near Seattle. This is another way I use touch drawing that you didn't mention in the bio, I don't think. Well, you may have slightly. I also love to listen to, all the incredible speakers and authors and inspirational people that are around. I love to listen and then draw in their presence and during their talks. So I call that interpretive touch drawing. And tonight there's a conference called Compassionate Seattle going on, and Karen Armstrong, who was a TED Talk winner, and she developed a project around compassion, an international compassion project. So she's speaking tonight at Compassionate Seattle, and I'm going to go bring my drawing materials. I'm going to get on the ferry as soon as we get off the phone. I'll bring my drawing materials into the cathedral where this event is happening, St. Mark's Cathedral. I'll sit in the upper right-hand corner probably, and when she's speaking, I will be doing a whole series of drawings inspired by her message, basically, and by her presence. And then I'm going to probably lay them out on the stage at the end so people can come see them and then put them online afterwards. So this is one more way. For me, it's like inspired studio time. Musicians get to play with each other. For me, it's the closest thing I get to jamming with someone. They don't really know that I'm there doing it, but I get the inspiration of playing off someone else who has a deep message and letting that inspire my own drawing. And I have done this for, 500-ish different speakers.
Don't forget
1980-something when I first did it. Yeah.
Don't forget, though, you're not just You're not just drawing from the one who's talking. You're also drawing from the ones who are listening and thinking about what the one that's talking is thinking about.
It's the whole energetic
weird.
field. You're right. The whole field, the energy of the people, and there's an intuitive level that when I get really plugged in, sometimes I'll start an image and I say, well, why am I doing this? This doesn't really fit with what the person is saying. And then I'm drawing it, and then they start talking about, something that I'm drawing. So I get just sort of plugged into that whole field, and I find it very, very energizing thing to do. I'll draw more drawings than I would if I was sitting at home in the studio, and it's a very enjoyable and exciting thing for me to do.
The audience wants to know if you get messages from other realism, as in spirit messages.
Do I get messages from other
realms?
Can you repeat the other realms? Let's see. I think my language, I just use a little bit of a different kind of language, but so I don't get information in the sense of answering a question or giving me, do this or do that, but I come into resonance. And so the times that I feel I'm in resonance with a larger field, that would be more how I would describe it, and I feel like the image is just coming through in this very clear manner, and it might bring through a presence. So instead of information, it's presence. The way I most overtly can sense this is when I'm drawing faces. Sometimes I'll draw just a whole series of faces, and there are times where it feels like it really is a being, the presence of a being taking form on the paper. I feel like I'm translating that being may or may not really identify with having a face. So for that being, it could even be like they're trying on a human face. Sometimes it feels a little bit like that. But I'm translating a sense of presence into human form. And there are times where I feel a real union with that, that's bringing something through that's not just my personal self.
That is so awesome. We're going to take a break for a couple seconds now. I want everybody out there to remember, and I got more messages, too, from the chat box. This thing is it's blowing up.
How fun. I love hearing from people.
Oh, yeah, you're going to hear from a whole bunch. Don't forget, this is WWW Pyramid One Network. It's the Bob Charles Show. You are listening to Deborah Koff-Chapin, and we will be right back.
Days beginning at noon.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension.
Bob Charles.
Oh, yeah, you got the Bob Charles Show right here at www.kinetichifi.com.
International.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
Bob Charles.
The secret of the technology used in the crystal skulls has still not been unraveled.
Sundays.
Don't forget, it's our world. Start taking care of it. It's time to think for yourself.
Bob Charles.
Open your heart to reality and to all the misinformation you hear. Just say no.
Noon to 4 on kinetichifi.com. Kinetic Hi-Fi.
.com.
Kinetic Hi-Fi.
The Wine Shop of Charleston, located Lockwood Drive at the Charleston City Marina, near Salty Mike's and the Variety Store, offering the best quality and price since 1995.
Don't miss the fabulous wine tastings every Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. For more information, go to the website, thewineshopoftcharleston.com, or call 843-577-3881. Cheers!
For America's wounded warriors, sometimes coming home can be a battle in itself. Every one of them needs our support to meet the challenges they face every day. The USO provides Americans a way to offer that support to our wounded warriors and their families. Join us. Visit USO.org to learn how you can make a difference in their lives. The USO, until everyone comes home.
For them. You're listening to the Pyramid One Network.
Thank you for listening to kinetichifi.com Community Radio.
Oh, yeah, and on Pyramid One Network, and we are wailing tonight, man. It's Friday night. Hey, let's smile already, you know? Hey, listen. We're listening to Deborah Koff-Chapin, and let me tell you something. This is a way of painting that I never thought of, and I'm going to start doing it in my living room as soon as I hang up with her. I mean, really, right on the wall. Deborah, I mean, really, seriously.
Actually, you know, if you've got a window, you could just roll your paint right on the window or a mirror.
There you go.
And put the paper on it and do your touch drawing. You certainly could.
You know, as many times, you know, that sounds kind of crazy, Ned, when we talk about it. But think about it. It's not crazy. People express themselves in different ways. And a lot of people that don't even know they have talent to do something like this because they don't try.
Yeah.
So if I talk about doing it on the window, go ahead, try it. You know?
Well, so many people got some kind of a message when they were a child that they shouldn't do it. People got that about art. People got that about singing. Those two particularly. And the amazing thing is, one message like that to a child, and they shut down. It's amazing the power of that message. And it's our birthright to be creative. We're tapping. It's not really about the thing or becoming a professional artist or all the things that we do with it in our culture. It's about being in touch with the creative, source and bringing it right through yourself and offering something to the world. And I think we all need some form of creative expression in our lives to be healthy.
Yeah, some of the things they're saying on here is it considered automatic drawing?
I don't know. That's it's sort of a surrealistic term. I don't think of it as sort of a blind channeling like you're unconscious or automatic like you're not conscious, because I feel very conscious when I'm doing it. I think we do tap something deeper and less conscious while we're working. But I think the automatic drawing it's a very specific thing where, you let your line go and you sort of let things happen and you feel like you're not a part of it. But I feel we're very much a part of what's happening as you draw. But the thing is that there's an enormous spectrum of levels. It can be thought of as, it is very often thought of as an art therapy process. Art therapists use it. It's even a physical therapy because people who can't hold tools can do touch drawing. So there are people who have introduced touch drawing to people with Parkinson's, to people who have had strokes. So it's everything. It's being done in hospitals. So it is a vast spectrum of ways the process can be applied. Someone who is into tapping deeper layers of consciousness it can use it at that level. But it's accessible to anybody at whatever level they want to enter it.
I was just writing back on the chat box there to someone that was there. I said, this is great stuff and a way to try and funnel energy through your fingers.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's energy work also.
Yes. There
absolutely are changes that happen when you allow the energy in your body to move through your fingertips into physical substance like this on the paper. Big transformational changes happen in the series of drawings, and that's why when I pretended we were doing touch drawing, I did more than one, because the reality is the power of this process is the multiple drawings. If in that 5 minutes, we did 2 drawings, which you would in reality do, imagine if you drew for an hour, an hour and a half. In my workshops, the drawing sessions tend to be about an hour and a half long, and people will do 10, 15, 20, 25 drawings in that time. And in that sequence, from the first to the last, there is a whole inner journey that happens, and there's energy work and transformational processes that happen, and it's unique to each person and what they need to do in the moment. So for one person, it might be feeling childhood playfulness, and another person might work with a real block or a physical pain. Every time you sit down, it can be a unique experience, but having the spaciousness to do multiple images and not stop after that first one, the speed of this process is, I think, another thing that gives it the transformative power. And then, when you're done doing that 15, 20 drawings that you just kind of flowed through without thinking very much, you turn them over and you go back to your first drawing, and then you look at them like turning the pages of a book. You actually have a record of your psyche in transformation. And that's when there can be a reflective process. You can do writing, you can talk about them, you can color them, add things to them, develop them image-wise. There's a lot of things you can do with them after the drawings are done.
And they're also saying, let me see, Australia is saying, sounds very common and a form of getting in touch with your inner being.
Yes, it is. It's one more form, and there are many, many forms that have been emerging in this time. So I think it's part of a cultural evolution that's happening. And this emerged, and this was a piece of it that was given to me to share. And boy, if I didn't see the impact on people when I share the process and introduce them to it, I wouldn't go through what I do to schlep art materials all over the world and present workshops.
Yeah, sure.
But I see the impact. I see how people are, more than anything, I see the beauty and the glow in people when they have spent a day doing touch drawing. The real beauty and the real creation is in them, is in the human beings sitting in the circle, and the sense that they are more fully themselves and more fully in their beautiful presence after doing this work.
Well, I think it's something that's creative. It's fulfilling to yourself.
Yeah.
It's as they say in Australia. It's a very common thing, or should I say not common, but calming, like CALM.
Calming, yes.
Calming.
Yes, it is very calming. Yeah, calming. Absolutely. Yeah. Stress release. It's great for that.
Yeah, it gets it out of you. And the other thing is that it's cheap.
Yes.
It's not expensive. You don't have to go nuts going out.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not going to cost you $40 for a a painting brush and all this kind of stuff, and I forget about it. You just go out and go to it, man.
Right. You can usually find a smooth board. Sometimes you can find something laying around your house, or carpenters have a piece of formica. Or you can buy a piece of plexiglass, and a printmaking roller is $10, $11. Tissue paper, you can get, for $20, you can get 1,000 sheets. So, and then it's just, the paint. But if you use the paint, if you don't overdo how much you put on the board, you don't spend that much. Your tubes of paint last quite a long time.
I was going to say that you take one of your drawers out of your bottom chest and turn it upside down.
Yes.
Use the bottom of the drawer. Yeah, that'll work for me. I don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah, Yep. Well, that might be, if it's an absorbent piece of wood, like the bottom of a drawer might be, if it's very absorbent, the paint's going to just soak into it. So you just need it to be something, with a smoother, less absorbent surface. That's the main thing you need to get right.
All right. You created images in SoulCards. What are SoulCards?
Yes. So the SoulCards are 2 decks of images that I've created. They weren't done as illustrations. They were just the images I did in my own contemplative studio time. But I had hundreds to choose from, and I looked through them, and I tried to select ones that seemed to represent the broadest range of human feeling that I could find in my own body of work. And each deck has 60 in them. And I've published them, and they have gone all over the world, and they continue selling, and people continue using them. They just sort of have this life of their own. They're extremely accessible because it's not like Tarot, where you need to do a very deep study of. I deeply respect Tarot and the esoteric system that it communicates, but these are more like art that you can be touched by. And you can project all you want onto them. That's really what they're about. So most card decks, even the ones that aren't Tarot, have a book. You pick a card, and then you go to the book and you look up a meaning. So it's more about what you read in the book. The SoulCards don't have a book that tells you what they mean. It has a little booklet that gives you creative processes that you can engage in when you look at the image. And it can be as simple as, let me ask a question and pick a single card and see what comes. And then whatever your emotional response is to that image is where your own message is. So it actually teaches people and helps them practice trusting their own self and their own intuition. You don't go to the book. You go, oh, this is what I feel. Well, can I trust my own response to this image? And how does that relate to my life issues? And there's something that works with the cards. Again, this sense that there's a transpersonal level that they're connected to, because when people are picking a card out of, say, 120 different images, when you're using the 2 decks, that just right card happens to be the one that they pick, you know? And so I think there's also some synchronicity element that works with the cards. And so people really use them for their own inner reflection and for tapping their own intuition. Yes. And a lot of workshop leaders use them. People use them for writing groups, like choose a card and use that as a prompt for writing. Or if you've got a women's group that's sharing or a support group, you can each pick a card and just talk about what it means for you. And it gets people talking from a more visceral level than just sort of what's happening in your life. It seems to tap that same place in people as doing the process, but in a much more easy, quick, accessible manner.
So it's not actually what if you were to ask a question that with a card, it wouldn't be what do you see, but it's more or less what do you feel like you see.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
So it's a feeling.
What is your feeling response to it?
Right.
And there's just such an aha for so much of the time. People pick a card and you just watch their face and they go like, oh. Yes, I get it. So it's kind of like a dialogue with the universe. If the universe, in the image that comes to you, kind of really reflects something, it can be very affirming of your own inner knowledge.
Well, a person like me that would say, well, it looks like a cat on a fence with a dog underneath that wants the cat for dinner and not an invite. So... Yeah.
Well, then you play with what does that mean for me? Anyone who wants to can go to my website. I haven't even publicized it, but you can do a soul card reading right on the website.
Oh.
If you go to the touchdrawing.com, the website, just the word touch drawing, on that opening page, it actually describes the 3 different parts of my site, and one is about the process of touch drawing, the other is about my artwork, and the third is a focus on the soul cards. So if you were to click on soul cards, you'll get a whole area of soul cards, and one of them is soul card reading. So anyone who's listening right now can just go and do their own reading, and then you can write your question, and you can write a response to it and email it to yourself. So there'll be a random card selection. You can ask a question, and then choose a card randomly, and then write your response to it and email it to yourself. So you can experience it right now if you would like.
That is cool. That is really, really great
stuff.
Now,
that's what I meant by the website has all kinds of, different layers of things in it. Yeah.
Now, you're also involved with sacred ceremonial arts, with music, using voice, drum, chimes.
Yes. There's been a real integration for me of that. I did in the 70s. I began studying sort of a contemporary creative sacred ceremonial process with Elizabeth Cogburn, a woman who was a mentor for me in those times. And I think I've taken the essence of what I received from that, and I've actually continued. We have a little circle of friends who've continued with that process all the way from those years till now. But I've also integrated that into, like, the way I hold a touch drawing workshop. I think of the touch drawing workshop not really as a workshop or class, which is the common language, but it's really got a sacred ceremonial quality to it. And I use music. I play music to open, to set the space, and then I sing and drum and play crystal bowls and other, instruments while people draw. So when I said earlier, I do my best to create a safe and sacred space, and then people have their own experience within that, I'm actually using my sense of sacred ceremony and very specifically my musical skills. I improvise, but I play the drum and I sing with it, and I play the crystal bowls and I sing with them. And what I do is try and hold people, create a sound that holds people and allows them to go more deeply into themselves.
Now that is cool. That's like,
yeah.
Forget about it. I want to be in your class.
So I spend hours doing music during workshops, and I love that. Well, I'll be in New York City in 2 weeks at the Open Center giving a day-long workshop for anyone who is in New York. Now is your chance.
That's a good
to
thing.
do touch drawing.
Yeah. Well, New York is definitely going to know about it because we have one of the stations up there, and that does stream the show and the archives of the show. So yeah, you'll definitely be known. The book, Drawing Out Your Soul, the Touch Drawing Handbook. Is this something that somebody can get and just use it as a guide?
It's a basic guide to doing touch drawing, yes. So what I did over the years, I've created different media. I knew that I was limited, and I wasn't going to go everywhere to give a workshop. So I created various media to help people do it on their own. There's the book, and it's also available in digital form. Everything I have you can also buy, as a download on the website. And then there's the DVD, which gives a demonstration and the story. And then I also have an audio CD and download, which is like a mini workshop experience. If you have the materials and you turn that on, I actually talk you through the process and do music while you draw. And I also sell materials kits and the whole thing. Over the years, I've one piece at a time set up so that anybody who wants to do touch drawing can get all the information materials. And the basic info is right on the website, the basic how-to for someone who feels like they can just gather their own materials. If you have the confidence to just, you can read it on a page on the website and start doing it as well. And I also have, I didn't mention in the authorship, but I wrote the Touch Drawing Facilitator Workbook, which is a large 3-ring binder that I add to every year or so, and that's all the information I can ever think of to help people who want to teach it themselves, particularly people who want to bring it into all their particular field of work, someone who's a therapist or someone who creates retreats for people who have stroke, or someone who works with children, or someone who does intuition workshops. I give the basics of how to get set up to lead touch drawing workshops with lots and lots of different ideas. And I just encourage people to go out and integrate it into the work that they do. If they have professional skills, they can bring touch drawing into it and customize it. It's a very open source approach. Customize it to work with their particular population because they have their own expertise. So I introduce the process at the deepest level I know how, and then I encourage people to customize its presentation and bring it into their work and go on and share it with people. And all I ask is that they tell people where they got it from and give the website, just so there's that circulation of energy back to the Center for Touch Drawing.
Is there any kind of kit or anything else that is available?
Oh, touch drawing materials kits, all available on the website. Yep. The whole shebang. Group kits, individual kits, refill materials. If you have some parts, but you need others, if you just go to the website and to the store on the website, it's all there. Yeah.
I don't know if you're I know some of the people that were listening and out there are definitely this old, because I mean my listening people that start at 30 up. So that's 30 32 impossible. So that's the range. But I mean, I'm serious.
Actually,
I was going to say there used to be a guy on TV named Nagy, I believe his name was.
Oh, I remember him.
There you go. And that guy used to teach basic art on TV, and he used to have these kits, and you could put the piece of plastic right on your screen of your TV, and you could draw with him while he was drawing. That's why I said, is there some kind of a kit? I didn't even realize that, but I remember him. I would watch him, but I never actually drew with him, but I remember watching him. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and then there's someone else, Bob Ross, a more current sort of version of him, who teaches people how to paint on TV. But yeah, all the info is on the website, and I really, because my calling is to just get this process out and have people do it.
Yeah, the best part of the whole thing was what you're doing, the work that you're doing. And I talk about it all the time on my show in one way or another, no matter how you want to cut it. We're taking things from a long time ago that we forgot, somewhere in between a long time ago and today. And today, we're remembering them, and we're bringing them back, and they're basic things that make us smile.
Yeah.
It makes us feel good.
Yes, absolutely. And have us contact our deep humanness, and out of that, maybe we will find our way through this mess we're in on the planet. You know, I mean, we each have our little part to bring in, our contribution to make, and we have to trust that there's something larger at work if we're offering ourselves in the best way we can to bring something real into the world and give in some manner. Let's just uphold together that we'll find our way through as, you know, human beings on this earth.
What they have actually done on the messenger that's coming on for the show is they actually have the entire ingredients to a kit on the box. Oh yeah,
really?
They have it there. They have 6 small tubes. They got 1 speedball, 4-inch whatever rubber. They've got. I mean, it's all. I mean, this is now going out to the world right now. So I mean, your stuff is
you
all
have
over
a
the
very
place.
very active and responsive audience. I can tell. It's wonderful. So that says a lot about you and the energy you're putting out and how you're developing a relationship with the people who listen.
Hey, listen,
That's just great.
We are here to teach, and they are there to learn. So, bingo. It's perfect.
And we're all here to teach something, and we learn from each other. So, you know, we all have blind spots and something we can learn from somebody else. So that sense that together, you know, we can help each other find our way through is, that's again my sense of the non-hierarchical approach, that we each have in the circle have a voice, you know, to offer on the planet right now, and we each need to feel in our power. And my hope is that touch drawing helps empower people to trust themselves.
Perfect.
And then, you know, do what they need with their lives.
And yes, they can do what they want to in their life. And you know what, which is really crazy, and I mean, I know that I've seen it a couple times here on the board. When you're doing this type of art, this is an imprint of yourself. It's
Absolutely.
like leaving a
That's
footprint of yourself on this planet. Imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's your energy, that's yourself, that's your
Yep.
thoughts, that's everything, that's the love that you have to put it on the paper in the first place.
Yes.
So, wow.
Absolutely. That's a statement of being here on the planet fully. And so if it brings people through some kind of experience where they can more fully be here, then touch drawing is serving its purpose. So someone might just do it once and it's done that for them, and they go on and do other things with their lives, but it's been a threshold that helped them, you know, arrive at who they are more fully. So for each person, the experience is unique, but hopefully that's what it's doing in essence.
On the screen it says,
Yeah.
Thanks, Deborah, getting me all keen about doing my art again.
Oh, fantastic. If this just gets you doing a different art form, it's worth it right now. Exactly. It's a wonderful way. It's a thought I had a few minutes ago that I didn't quite slip in. It's an incredible way to get together with 1, 2, or 3 friends, a very small support group, to do touch drawing together. So I also do have group kits to make an appointment with 1 friend, 2 friends maybe, and you sit and you draw together, and you put on some music, you light some candles, you make a special space, and then you're feeling close, but you're not having to talk. You know, so often we feel like we have to just talk nonstop when we're with friends. It's a wonderful way to be with people you're close with, and yet not have to talk. And then when you're finished doing your drawings, to look at them, to witness the drawings that you each did. That's why it's nice to do it in a very small group, where you could, say, if you got together once a month and did touch drawing with friends, and then every time you'd see the changes that are going on, you're actually looking inside each other's soul. And to do that with people you're close with over a period of time can be a very powerful and beautiful way to be close with the friends that you're with and share. So that's the way I really recommend finding 1 or 2 drawing partners to keep the process going in your life.
Fantastic. Well, Deborah, where can we get your stuff at?
touchdrawing.com.
And that's it, without the /home?
Well, you know, it's www.touchdrawing.com. That's all you need to do. Put that in. It'll take you to the home page. And you'll see my workshop schedule, because I have workshops coming up in New York City, March 29th at the Open Center, and a couple weeks later in North Carolina. I'm going down to Florida, but that's full, so that's not, I don't know if that's on the schedule anymore. And then I have other ones in the Northwest, and who knows where I'll travel next. I think Europe, actually. I'm exploring where in Europe, because I'm going there next fall. So if anyone's out there in Europe listening and wants to help pull a workshop together, I am listening for the right place to go right now. So, and if you sign the mailing list and put your location on, I'll let you know if I'm coming to your area.
Also, a copy
and just go try having a SoulCards reading, too.
Oh, that's cool. A copy of the show, and that will also be on the blog, connected to Deborah. So you'll be able to see that tomorrow. Deborah, thank you very much for being on the show. It has been more than an honor having you here.
It has been a pleasure to talk to you. I truly have enjoyed this, Bob. Just great.
Thank you. And you are helping a lot of people by what you're doing. So this is a great thing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your affirmation.
Thank you.
And you are, too, with your sincerity and giving people this amount of time and being so present with them. I can tell that you're really doing a whole lot for everyone who's listening to your show. So thank you.
All right. You have a great evening. And listen, go make those people throw some energy at you.
Okay. I'm going to go have some fun, do some drawings tonight in Seattle. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All righty. Now to everybody out there.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye now. This is www.kinetichifi.com, and this is also the one and only Pyramid One Network on the Bob Charles International Show. That was Deborah Koff-Chapin. Don't forget, it's our world. Let's start talking and taking care of it. It's time to think for yourself. Open your heart to reality and start painting. And to all the misinformation you hear, just say no. Time as we know it is changing. Don't forget, you can write me or the show directly at bobcharlesshow@live.com or pyramid1network.com. Now, thank you to the networks that make this an international show. Of course, there's stations all over. But Knock Hard Radio is in New York City, New York's best international station. Bandit Radio FM. Bandit Radio FM is out in the West. The best in the West. Mix Network, mixing world energy around the world, and WBAD.net in Washington, D.C. Hey, Washington. And listen to an awesome show on Sundays, The Tom and Susie Show, live between 8 and 10 p.m. on Sundays. Don't miss it. Monday through Thursday, listen to Bob Charles International Show just by clicking on Pyramid One Network, The Bob Charles Show. And don't forget, the Pyramid One Network is the #1 informative, educative, community station, heard now, global, in over 107 countries around the globe and South Carolina. God bless y'all. Bob Charles, out!